It's time to get educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show. We've got a great show for you today, so please hit that share button so we can get this wonderful information in the hands of more people. Today we start at Lewis and Clark College in Oregon, where an English professor was forced by students to write an apology letter for showing a movie clip from 1965 that deeply offended them. Take a quick look at the actual image here. This is Othello, the Othello that was done by Sir Laurence Olivier, and there he is playing the role of Othello. If you aren't familiar with Shakespeare's Othello, Othello is a Moor, right, which means he is not white. I'm not sure he would be looking like an African American, but certainly he would have been looking more like an Arab. Nevertheless, there is Olivier in blackface to do the role. Now, this was unremarkable back in the 1960s. There were all sorts of people who wore blackface, and whiteface too, by the way, African American performers. Nevertheless, now everything is a cancel moment. So we come back to the modern day. We find out that a professor in English, a professor at the University of Michigan showed this to some of his kids. Everybody freaked out. It was a long, drawn-out. He ended up stepping away from the classroom. People were so horribly offended by this. And then for some silly reason, a professor at Lewis and Clark College decided he was going to show his kids exactly the same image, and he was going to try to teach them something. How dare a professor take a lesson like the one we just saw happen at Michigan, that you can't show a performance of Shakespeare from that long ago if it's going to tickle the sensitivities of these hypersensitive kids. Well, I don't know why this guy did this in Oregon. The blackface-ish controversy continues its carnage here. There's your professor. At Oregon's Lewis and Clark College, Associate Professor of English, William Pritchard, decided he was going to show the clips, the same clip I just showed you, for students to discuss. He shared with the class an article about Bright Sheng, who's the Michigan professor who got into trouble about doing this. Well, right away, student Claire Champomier, I believe her name is, Champomier, in a letter attacking her teacher, delivered the letter to the media studies dean, Deanna Goldsmith at the college, sent it all over the school. She demanded on the spot that Pritchard attend racial bias training. Additionally, she ordered him to write a, quote, well-written apology of 2 pages in length or longer, in which she would read aloud to the class. So she dictated to the professor, not only are you going to be bias trained for this, you will do a letter. She basically became the professor. She put the professor in the place of some humble student, and she dictated to him what his punishment would be. And guess what happened? Yes, you know what happened. The professor completely caved in. Absolutely stunning. Her reasoning, Miss Champomier, is as stated, quote, the discussion he facilitated took about half our class time. So we have reasoned there can be room for a 3 to 4 minute apology. This is non-negotiable, Claire Champomier said. Her professor, predictably, did exactly as he was told. He emailed his mea culpa on October 14th, reciting it the next day. Here's some of what our oh-so-contrite professor wrote. Quote, my purpose in providing a glimpse of Othello's use of makeup was not to endorse the artistic or ethical choices that were made in the film, but I see now that giving it any screen time at all was a first step towards imparting the message that many of you took from that day's class, namely, a message from our professor that to him it was sometimes okay to do blackface and other forms of whitewashing. Here, I apologize again, misguidedly, playing devil's advocate, as your letter puts it. He supposedly knew what he was doing, and now he's better informed. As part of his penance, Pritchard agreed to attend racial bias training workshops. Moreover, he hoped conversations with Claire and the rest might help him avoid messing up in the future. Right? So Claire gets to decide and Claire, by the way, she wasn't completely satisfied with his apology because it tried to exonerate himself, tried to explain the reason behind why we did that, and we know that's not allowed. Teaching and lesson learning, this is really not allowed in public colleges anymore unless it's the teacher who learns the lesson. And what's really chilling about this, because I do this all the time as a professor, you play devil's advocate, right? When you're reading books, your job is not to impose your will or your opinion on the books. Your job is to play devil's advocate for the book that you're assigned, right? So if you're reading a play like Shakespeare, and kids don't like the racial politics of the play, you're in trouble now for even assigning that. It's not just about the blackface. The play itself, Othello, dealing with race from 400 years ago. Inevitably, there are going to be things in it that a modern audience would see as offensive. So by simply defending the play, by assigning I'm a Shakespeare professor, right? Interestingly, Pritchard wasn't. And neither was the professor in Michigan, but I am. In assigning Othello, I always play devil's advocate for what's going on in the play. Even the character Iago, who wants to destroy Othello, we have moments where we play devil's advocate to get kids to see his perspective. Now, according to what just happened at Lewis and Clark College, that's verboten.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66% on all items at MyPillow.com when you use the code Dr. Duke. That's DRDUKE. Support this show by supporting a great American company.
Gobble, gobble, team. I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving by having an actual Thanksgiving, unlike 2020, when you weren't allowed to eat with anyone, according to Screwtape's junior demon, Wormwood, who some people are still calling Dr. Anthony Fauci. Now, it wouldn't be the holiday season without someone like Tony and the old senile grandpa named Joe ruining said holiday by using scare tactics for the newest variant, the Omicron.
Well, it has a constellation of mutations, Lester, around that spike protein, which would be strongly indicative that this will be highly transmissible and might, in fact, escape some of the immune parameters, such as monoclonal antibodies and the convalescent serum and plasma when people recover, and likely even some protection from the antibodies that are induced by vaccination. So we're taking it very, very seriously. It's spreading really quite rapidly in South Africa, and then we're seeing cases popping up in countries around, particularly when there's been travel from South Africa or Southern African countries to other places like Israel and places like that.
So super serious, in fact, that the world is shutting down again. And that brings us to today's question. How many variants will it take to get to the center of this Tootsie Pop? The one that you should definitely not be licking, of course. You know, germs and all. Now, if you'd be so kind, please share this video so everyone can put in their guesses, as the more the merrier, but not forgetting more variants. Now, moving on, the Omicron variant was detected in South Africa by the chairwoman of the South African Medical Association, which means she must be the one causing all this panic.
But looking at the mildness of the symptoms that we are seeing, currently there's no reason for panicking, as we don't see severely ill patients.
You can't say that, Dr. Lady. Yes, you are only the person who discovered and made Tony aware of what was happening with the new variant, but only Tony-approved panic porn is allowed. Surely, these symptoms are worse than you're leading on.
So it started with the younger generation, 40 and less, and the most predominant clinical complaint is severe fatigue for 1 or 2 days, with then the headache and the body aches and pain. Some of them will have what they call a scratchy throat, and some will have a cough, a dry cough, but it's not a constant cough. It comes and goes. And that's more or less the big symptoms that we have seen.
That means that we must shut down the world for a cough and a scratchy throat. Science. Except for the science that is actually being done by Dr. Angelique Coetzee, because she knows what is happening and is stunned by the lack of actual science and basic common sense.
We're all of the same opinion. Mild disease so far. We're not saying it's not going to change going forward. But for now, the hype doesn't make any sense to us at all.
Nevertheless, Joe and the rest of the world want to shut it all down, which also means that it's okay now to be xenophobic. Because when Orange Man Bad restricted travel to and from Africa, he was a raging racist. As Joe said, it's that simple. They are racist. They are xenophobic. And then he tweeted that same day, February 1st, 2020, "We are in the midst of a crisis with the coronavirus. We need to lead the way with science, not Donald Trump's record of hysteria, xenophobia, and fear-mongering. He is the worst possible person to lead our country through a global health emergency." Is he, though? Donald's the worst. Not. You tell me in the comments. Who do you think is the worst person to lead our country through a global health emergency? Because I don't see anyone leading right now. And there's more. In March 2020, Joe said, "A wall will not stop the coronavirus. Banning all travel from Europe or any other part of the world will not stop it. This disease could impact every nation and any person on the planet, and we need a plan to combat it." Yes, indeed, we still do. But it's not a public policy dealing anymore. It's personal choice and responsibility, not daddy government. Yet Joe and the gang have placed travel restrictions against 8 African countries.
The very day the World Health Organization identified the new variant, I took immediate steps to restrict travel from countries in southern Africa. But while we have that travel restrictions can slow the speed of Omicron, it cannot prevent it. But here's what it does. It gives us time. It gives us time to take more actions, to move quicker, to make sure people understand you have to get your vaccine. You have to get the shot. You have to get the booster. Sooner or later, we're going to see cases of this new variant here in the United States.
Wait a tick. We are immediately putting on a travel ban that actually was known on Friday, but not implemented until Monday, because it's so apparently not immediate. And then it buys us time to act quickly. And then the ban is to slow it, but it'll be here sooner or later. Are you confused? Outraged? Yes. Since we're talking about time, that tweet from Joe back in March 2020 about not doing travel bans was just 4 days before the 15 days to slow the spread mantra began. So think about time with that one. And here we are now, with the president who said he'd take responsibility and all that about ending the pandemic. Remember?
If you hear nothing else I say tonight, hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially, anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end this. I will make sure we have a plan.
Share this video just so others can be reminded of that clip from October of 2020. Just hit that share button right now. Be the reminder. Since Joe is talking about responsibility and the idea of not remaining in the highest level of leadership, let's talk again about Tony, since he's the little g god for the administration. But he'll call himself something else.
So if they get up and criticize science, nobody's going to know what they're talking about. But if they get up and really aim their bullets at Tony Fauci, well, people could recognize there's a person there, there's a face, there's a voice you can recognize, you see him on television. So it's easy to criticize. But they're really criticizing science because I represent science. That's dangerous. To me, that's more dangerous than the slings and the arrows that get thrown at me. I'm not going to be around here forever, but science is going to be here forever. And if you damage science, you are doing something very detrimental to society long after I leave. And that's what I worry about.
Now, COVID is a real thing. Take your common sense, necessary approaches to protect yourselves. But right now, this thing is pure politics. How political, you may be wondering? You know it's very political when we can't even continue naming the variants using the sequence of the Greek alphabet. Yep, that's correct. This variant should have been new, spelled N-U, but it would be called a new variant, and we are too dumb to be able to know what we're talking about. And then here's the real one. The next letter is pronounced Psi, but when you spell Psi, it's actually X-I. And you know who has that as a last name? Yepper deppers, it's Xi Jinping, the communist dictator of the China, from whence the Wuhan came. So it'd be insensitive and downright racist to name a variant of the COVID.
How dare you?
My question is, will we ever get to Omega? I assume we get to have pi in March. And if that joke resonates with you, you are a math nerd. On the note of Omega, I won't be here next week because I'll be seeing Genesis. Yes, the band. But stay tuned because I'll have plenty of nonsense in our land of confusion to discuss. In the meantime, if you would follow me and share this video to show your love for Genesis, I'd appreciate it. Until next time, let's go Brandon, and stay healthy, America.
Joined now by our international correspondent, Alex Newman. Alex, so great to have you with us today.
Great to be with you. Thank you so much, Duke.
We have a really serious issue to deal with. 4 or 5 months ago, the federal government beclowned themselves by agreeing to send federal agents to monitor school board meetings because uppity parents, we just had to make that a priority. Domestic terrorists, moms, soccer moms now being labeled domestic terrorists. There was so much mockery, so much pushback that I think everybody just stopped talking about it. Now we're seeing not just federal agents, but local law enforcement actually dragging moms and dads out of school board meetings and incarcerating them, holding them simply for protesting at public schools.
Yes, we are, Duke, and it's something that's happening all across the country, even in Texas. And they're even sending agents to people's houses. They're sending armed goon squads to the houses of parents to terrorize them, to arrest them, to search them, to manhandle their children. It's absolutely unbelievable, and yet it's a pattern. It's happening all across America. Even in Texas, right? That was the one that really jumped out at me. The Round Rock Independent School District. Apparently, they have their own police department. And first, they used police to drag two dads out of the meeting. They weren't doing anything wrong, anything illegal. They were complaining about the nonsense happening to their children and how the communists on the school board were not letting parents come in to speak. And then a few days later, they sent these officers to the homes of these dads and arrested them and held them in jail. And they're charging them, and I kid you not, with disorderly conduct. So these people are completely out of control. We have a similar thing in Gwinnett County. They arrested a mom. We've got the FBI raided the home of a concerned mother in Colorado. We have just example after example. We've got a lady up in Michigan who's being charged with a felony for recording the conversation of a superintendent and some other big school official talking about her. It's unbelievable, Duke.
So why has none of this made the national news? Why? I mean, there was a lot of furor and uproar about this 4 or 5 months ago when Merrick Garland put his big stupid foot in his mouth. And yet I know that the Senate is calling for him to come back to explain what seems to be outright lies that he told to the Senate committee. We'll see if that happens. But why is there were so many news sites, including conservative ones, that were all over this at the time, don't seem to be on this right now?
I think a lot of people are just struggling to believe it. It's popping up in local news articles. If you search through the local news reports, you'll find it. There was one piece about it by Christopher Rufo in the New York Post, which is not a very reliable paper, but it was good that came out there. That was the story about the two dads in Texas who were arrested by the police department of this school board. But it really, you're right, is not in the national media. And I think part of that is that the propaganda machine disguising itself as the news media realizes that if parents realized parents were being arrested for speaking out at school boards, they would have a much bigger problem on their hands. They'd probably have the whole town showing up, potentially with pitchforks and torches, demanding some answers. But this is where we are in America now, where school boards send police to arrest parents at their homes because they're upset about the sexualization, the radicalization, the brainwashing of their precious little children.
So what are the families doing? What are the local communities doing? Are these moms and dads that are being persecuted? Do they have their own lawyers? Are there these legal defense fund groups coming to their rescue? What's happening to the people who are actually experiencing this?
Yeah, and that is going on, Duke. This case in Texas, for example, where the two dads were arrested and held in jail, the community came out and protested peacefully, obviously, outside the jail that entire night. The community then raised money to get them out, and now they're raising money for their legal defense. Same thing with this mom up in Michigan. She's got an attorney. She's doing her best to get this information out there. And also this mom whose home was raided by the clown car that is the FBI. She's now doing the rounds. She was just on our mutual friend Brandon House's show recently talking about this. The FBI literally busted down her door with a battering ram, manhandled her daughter, dragged her up the steps on her hoodie, handcuffed her. I mean, this is the behavior that you see in Stalinistic dictatorships. This is something you'd expect to see in Cuba. So fortunately, the communities are coming together. They do have legal representation, but I have a feeling it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Today's show is sponsored by Clean Start Hand Sanitizer. For an odor-free foam hand sanitizer that lasts 2 hours and provides 19 refills, visit freedomproject.com/clean. That's KLEEN to order yours today.
It's time for Reclaiming America, our segment with counterculture mom Tina Griffin. Tina, thanks for being here.
Hey, excited to reclaim America with you, Dr. Duke.
We have kind of an interesting story here. We have the Norwegian government who is promoting an advertisement in which Santa Claus is gay and shows up on Christmas Eve to kiss another man. I'll read the captions. Dear Santa, all I want to Christmas is you, a man writes, and sends a letter in to Santa Claus, a middle-aged man. And if sooner or later he's waiting for a response from Santa Claus, the doorbell rings, he answers the door, and he gets a delivery. Packages, Christmas packages from a delivery agent. Turning the corner, the man walks back into his room, and there's Santa Claus. Quote, I arranged some help this year so I can be with you. And the next really creepy part is a close-up of the two of them, and they're kissing full on the mouth. And I think that's enough to make you vomit your Christmas cookies, isn't it? In 2022, Norway marks 50 years of being able to love whoever we want. Oh my God! What purpose does this serve?
You know what, Dr. Duke? The only way I could really express this from the depths of my soul is to write a jingle for this shenanigans. So do you mind if I go ahead and share that?
Let's hear it.
All right. You have to watch out. You probably will cry. This Santa's a fraud. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus loves women. This one's kissing a guy. I checked this dirt twice. We're finding out this fake is naughty, not nice. This Santa is without a doubt a lie. There you go from Counterculture Mom.
I love it. We got to get some. Can we get some beats to go with that when she's rapping? She's rapping. Well, this is.
I rap it again.
This is completely gratuitous. I mean, all the hundreds and the centuries we've had Santa Claus, right? Going all the way back to the 4th century with I believe the Bishop of Myra, who became Santa Claus. We've never ever had to worry about him having sex with anybody, have we? And here we go. No. So why now, after hundreds and hundreds of years of this, over 1,000 years of this, why do we have to sexualize him? And by the way, where are the feminists, Tina? Because not only do you make Santa Claus gay, but you erase Mrs. Claus. That ain't cool. Is it from a feminist perspective?
Absolutely not. And I was just going to mention, I just got word, Mrs. Claus texted me this morning. She said, don't worry, Tina, we got this. Tell Dr. Duke, the whole crew, all pro-God family, American-loving patriots here, that she is suing the Norwegian commercial company who pumped this out. So we got Mrs. Claus in the mix. She's now suing these people. So let's see what happens. We'll keep them posted.
On behalf of non-slim people, right? Because that's another thing, too. Those of us who get fat-shamed, do you notice how Santa Claus has no belly at all? They've taken away his beer belly. Can you believe that? I mean, not only is he gay, they've also, to offend all of us who are routinely shamed for not being thin, they took away his girth.
All I have to say about that is that was the first clue I have, and I have about 50 to tell me why this is a fraudulent stand-in Santa Claus. He is shooting a movie here and standing in for the real deal. So he gets a D-F. He shouldn't really get paid.
Why not do all the stereotypes, right? Make him a buff and wearing a crop T-shirt where you can see his abs, right? And have him wearing yoga pants. Why not go the whole 9 yards? We've got
No, I do not want that. Let's just keep Santa fat and happy with a bunch of cookie crumbles coming out of his mouth, Dr. Duke. We got to keep him the way I knew him, you know?
In order to have this tryst on Christmas Eve, he's got to lie to Mrs. Claus. He's got to delegate the one job he has to do every year. He delegates somebody else so he can stick his tongue in the mouth of some 40-year-old dude. It's weird.
Well, that's one way of saying it. Probably more details than what I want to hear at this point, but you are exactly right. This guy's a fraud.
Give us some good, wholesome movie tips.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of these can be found actually in our Counterculture Mom app, but there are a lot of great movies actually that are out there right now. Clifford the Big Red Dog is a delightful movie for kids. Santa actually gave this movie 2 thumbs up. So does Counterculture Mom and our team. This great family-friendly movie, this beloved childhood classic centers on the relationship between a young girl named Emily Elizabeth, who is bullied by her classmates, Boo, and a little red puppy named Clifford, who becomes her best friend and grows 10 feet overnight. This information can be found in our Counterculture Mom app. Also, we have a sweet movie called Blue Miracle. We just watched it as a family. Dr. Duke, it's fantastic. It centers around a man named Papa Omar, who runs an orphanage in Cabo San Lucas. It made me want to actually go out there and lay on the beach. But he finds himself in debt. He doesn't want to lose the kids in this orphanage. He has a very tight bond with them. They have a fishing competition, and we have a cranky guy in the mix that helps them win, Captain Wade. They win the winning fish, reel it in, and it's a fantastic, fantastic movie for families to check out with their kids, with no scenes where they have to hide them underneath the table for even 3 seconds. The other quick thing I want to mention, with VidAngel, if there's a certain movie you want to watch a season, but you're like, shoot, it has that 5-second scene or that 2-minute scene at the end, just get VidAngel. It's $1 for the first month to try it out. Download the Counterculture Mom app, click on Premium, and that'll get you all of the dirt on the freebie giveaways this month, all the free gifts, the trials. VidAngel's only $1 for the first month to try out. Just put the code word Tina in there. That's it. So we can make a little bit nasty movie excellent and nice.
Okay, before we wrap things up, I want to take a moment to show some love for our Patriot Club members. Today, we give a shout out to Richard from Edmond, Oklahoma. Thank you, Richard, so much for supporting us. And that's going to do it for the Dr. Duke Show. I am Dr. Duke. Until next time, you stay educated, my friends.